So, welcome to Raising Brave Voices, a collaboration between Hey Honey and Tailor Made Visual Productions. We are excited to create a space where we can have meaningful conversations about helping children to grow, thrive, and become confident in who they are.
Whether you're a parent, an educator, caregiver, or community supporter, our hope is that these conversations provide practical tools and encouragement that you can use right away.
So, today's conversation is all about helping children find their voice. So, let's get started.
Let's start with a simple question, Candace. When you were a child, what helped you to feel heard?
Thanks for asking. So, what helped me to feel heard is when someone stopped what they were doing and actually gave me eye contact and looked at me in my eyes, and gave me a head nod. And sometimes, even if they repeated back what I said, that made me feel like what I had to say was important enough for them to stop what they were doing. How about you?
I think it's when a child has done something that they're very proud of and they shared with their families or friends or whomever, and people praise them for that and tell them what a great job it is they have done. That in itself helps the child to feel even more about themselves like, wait a minute, I'm doing something good because people are acknowledging what I've done. And it makes a child feel much better.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
What does finding your voice actually mean?
So, finding your voice to me, what that means is being able to stand up for yourself, being able to advocate for what you believe, and standing firm in it, and really being able to speak up, and say what you feel and what you believe, and really just like I said, just standing on that. That's what I feel is finding your voice. Also, in believing in yourself, even when no one else believes
Absolutely.
in you. I think that believing
Absolutely.
in yourself is finding your voice. And really going after what you believe that you want to do. So, would you say that children who may be shy, do you feel like that they would have a voice?
Absolutely. Having a voice doesn't mean just verbally, as you know, but it could be in their writing, it could be in their arts, it can be in many forms. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, oh, talkative, but a lot of children, art, of course, is expressive in itself. And, just being around different people and listening, and then how children react to things, to situations and stuff, and they might huff, they might puff, but having a voice isn't just literal. It's just in many forms, in many ways, and I think children are very good at expressing themselves that way as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree definitely.
What about children who communicate differently, such as deaf and hard of hearing, autistic, or nonverbal children?
Yeah, I do. I believe, my motto, my philosophy is that no matter disability or not, I believe that everyone has a voice. Now, how they communicate and speak up for themselves, or it may look different. So there may be someone that's nonverbal that may use some type of AAC device. There may be someone that's deaf or hard of hearing that may use an interpreter, or they may use American Sign Language as their way of speaking. There may be some nonverbal kids or even deaf or autistic youth that may draw, like you said,
Yes,
or they may use some type of instrument. They may be good at playing an instrument or things like that. So
absolutely.
there's a variety of ways that someone can express themselves or quote unquote use their voice to speak what they're feeling, what their emotions and all of that. So I mean that's just my philosophy.
No, I
So
agree with you.
what happens when children don't feel heard? What do you say about that?
Well, I think what happens when children don't be heard, they, of course, become loners. They become so internal. They don't get to, they don't express themselves. They don't know how. They don't know when or they or if they should. They tend to not have the greatest social skills
Mm.
because everything is internal with them. So they don't know how to say, hey, I need help, or, I would like to be a friend, or can I join you in this game or something? So I think that it's really critical that if you're an educator, not even just if you're an educator, family member, friend, or whatever, if you see a child like that, I would think that someone would say, hey, let's look into see how we can help this child to be more expressive, how they, because it may just be if someone just taking an interest in them to help for them to open up, or it may be something more serious where they may need professional guidance. So I think that we do ourselves and the children a disservice not paying attention to them.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially like you said, they become loners and kind of disengaged. So I definitely agree with that.
Why do some children struggle to express themselves?
That's a good question. So I would say, just my opinion, one thing could be their environment, how they are growing up, what space they're in. They may not feel comfortable. They may not feel safe to express themselves. Also, I would say, too, if the parent or the guardian or whomever it is, the teacher, educator, whoever that encounters and engages with that youth, I think that sometimes if they're not properly taught how to express themselves, they may express themselves in bad or negative behaviors, or they may keep everything in and kind of pack everything down and isolate themselves to where they're not communicating at all. So I think sometimes it could be just a lack of education as to why they may struggle.
I totally agree with you. Tell me this: how can adults accidentally silence children's voices?
So I think sometimes adults can silence them when they are always correcting something that they're
Mm,
saying. They may always, tell them to be quiet. The old saying, be seen and not heard. Children are seen and not heard,
mhm.
type of attitudes or mindset. And that can, I don't think all the time is done intentionally, but if it's, how if that parent was raised that way, sometimes we tend to take on those same parenting styles that how we were raised, and we bring it into our household and with our families. And we always will say, oh, I'm not going to be like that person. I'm not going to do that, but sometimes we end up turning out to be the person that we work so hard to not be
Not,
like. So I think that sometimes that's how adults can accidentally silence children's voices. What would you say to that?
I would say a couple of things. One, when a parent does that, that makes the children fear of making mistakes. They don't want to do the wrong thing. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to be. They may feel like they're being compared to others. But I think the biggest mistake they can make accidentally, and like I said, I don't know. It's not necessarily intentional, but it's just the way we live in our society now. We're too busy, we're too busy
Mm,
just to take the few minutes it takes just to sit down and listen to what they say, especially with small children. Small children, they come home from school, they have a whole lot to tell you. But you're too busy trying to get dinner ready, go picking up this child or taking this child to practice and, trying to make sure you get this done. And you're not paying attention. And at some point, that child is going to notice that. They're either going to
mhm.
vocalize that or they're going to internalize that. And when they
That's good.
internalize it is when you go wrong.
Yeah,
You
that's
can go
good.
wrong with them vocally, but at least vocally, where they're thinking. So I say, take that opportunity when you're in the car with that child, to listen to what they say, have a conversation, turn the radio off, put the phone down for a few minutes, and just have a conversation. Just listen to what they say and ask them how they feel about what they're telling you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That is so good. Yeah, I agree.
What are one things parents can start doing today? What's the one thing teachers can do?
So I have this thought. It's called the Brave method. It's BRAVE, the Brave method. The B is to believe in them. Sometimes we as parents, we don't always, again, this another thing we may not necessarily be intentional about, but we may not always really believe in them that they can do certain things, especially with kids or youth that have disabilities. We may feel like we have to do it for them, and
Mm-hmm.
so I would say that B, believe in them. The R would be respect their communication style. So some youth may have, like we've talked earlier, they may use a device to communicate. They may use sign language to communicate. They may use gesturing at the time. They may not have enough word vocabulary to speak. And like you were saying, the younger children. So just being able to respect their communication style. I think sometimes we as parents forget that children are mini human. I mean, they're young people. They're going to grow up into adults like we had to grow
Mm-hmm.
up into adults. And so respect goes a long way, no matter what age that is. I would say for the A is ask open-ended questions. So
Mm-hmm.
not always asking yes and no questions, because sometimes that doesn't allow the youth or the child to be able to think logically or to process and speak, from a point of being having to use their brain and their mind to think. And so when you ask those open-ended questions, it leaves room for more discussion. So then that person can feel like, or that child can feel like, okay, I can talk and say how I feel, what I want to say. V is for validate their feelings. So, sometimes we learn this in counseling when we go, I acknowledge how that may have made you feel, and I see how, having empathy, having that empathetic feeling and showing that to validate that what they're feeling is okay. Like we're humans, we can feel sad. It's okay to feel sad. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. Now, you can teach them how to funnel that so that they don't continue in that. But letting people know that it's okay to feel what they feel. And then
Mm-hmm.
that last one, E, is to encourage their growth. So again, just encouraging them if they're feeling angry. Okay, now how can we express that in a different way to where it's not going to come off as aggressive or it's not going to hurt you or someone else? What can we do to funnel that so that I can feel what I feel, but now
Mm-hmm.
I have a way, an outlet to express that feeling.
Well, that's interesting, and I really like that. But here's a question for you: how should we celebrate children's uniqueness?
So I think, it just depends. I think for one, as a parent myself, I had to learn my children. I had to
Mm,
learn their style. I had to learn their learning capabilities. I
mm,
had to learn who they were individually. I didn't try to force them to be someone that I wanted them to be. I allowed them to be who they were created to be. And so celebrating them in that, is a huge step because that makes them then feel later on in life. You may not think it's making a difference when they're younger, but as you continue to do that, that allows them to feel like I can express myself and I don't have to live in my parents' shadow I don't have to do what they want me to do. I'm free to do what I want, and my mom or my dad or my parents or my family is going to support that, and they're going to celebrate me in being what I
Okay.
choose to be in my life.
Candace, can you share a moment when you saw a young person find their voice?
Yeah, I would say that it was a time, in my teaching experience where there was a young deaf boy that I worked with for some years that had minimal language skills. And I was more of his his more of his teacher than his interpreter. And so over that time, that 5.5 years that I worked with him, I taught him like he didn't know his phone number, his address, and all of that, the basic life skill stuff. And so over time, he began to learn that. And it was then, at one day, he came and he signed his address and he signed his birthday and he signed, his phone number. And I could just see him just light up. And he was like, he looked like he was just proud of himself and what he had accomplished. And that to me made me feel like, man, that all of this time that we worked together, it was really worth it. Because now, if something happens and he needs to, encounter a police or whatever, he can tell them a phone number. He can tell them where he lives, and they can help assist him to get him where he needs to go. So that was one experience.
There's
Uh, do you have an experience?
I can think of one, but I would say to that when you just said there's nothing greater than watching a child come into their own when they get something and they get it and they get it on their own. You not only are you proud, they're proud of themselves. They like, oh, I did it, and that's why we have to celebrate it. That's why you have
Yes.
to really celebrate it. Sometimes you got to over celebrate it because with some children, that's what they need. They need that
Yes.
constant, just as when you discipline a child, you have to do, but when you praising a child, you just have to praise them because it's a big step. You don't
Yeah.
know how big of a step that may be for that child. So I think that for me, I think it's when I go do my readings and and the intentions behind my book, concepts behind the Hey Honey children's books, is really to, show children how they can be better citizens, how to grow up, be successful, productive human beings, but also about, sympathy and empathy and those things. And it really makes my heart sing when they get a story, when they actually understand what this story is about. It's about, it's cute, but they get the message. And when they tell me what that message is without me asking, when they make the comments that they make me, that really makes me feel good. It's like, okay, they get it. So if they
Yeah.
get it, that means they have an understanding, they have a concept of what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So before we close, we have a family challenge for all of you in our viewing audience. So this week's Raising Brave Voices challenge is very simple. It's not hard.
That's right. So here we go. Ask your child, one, what is something you're proud of? Two, what is something you wish adults understood about you? Three, what is one thing you want to learn this year? Then spend 5 uninterrupted minutes listening.
Yeah. Then on top of that, listen without correcting, without fixing, or interrupting them.
Just listen.
So we'd love to hear from you. What's one way you've helped a child to find their voice? Leave a comment below.
And if there's a topic you would like for us to discuss in a future episode, let us know that as well.
Remember, Every child deserves to feel valued and empowered. We'll see you soon on the next Raising Brave Voices episode.